Hi, my name is Dave Frank. Welcome to my 20th Internet Masterclass. I'm coming to you live from Harry, NYC at 140 West 30th Street in Manhattan. Tonight I'm pleased to offer you a clinic called Ear Training, Theory and Practice. We'll be exploring some of the renowned ear training systems developed in recent jazz history, all in the interest of giving you various tools to develop your ability to hear and thus generate great music. There are two basic ways to play music. In the traditional approach, the source of the music is outside of you, usually on the printed page. The music starts on the outside and is taken inside to then be reproduced by the player. The way of the improviser reverses this process in a unique way. When improvising, the source of the music is located inside of oneself, in the inner ear. The inner ear is that faculty of the brain mind that can hear music internally, without it being played on a physical instrument. The improviser uses his or her inner ear to tune into the cosmic flow of music that is always present. With training, this mysterious faculty, the inner ear, spontaneously sends the music heard to the fingers where it may be physically heard by the listener. Ear training is a particular aspect of musical study that relates to the refinement and development of the inner ear. Tonight I'll present three approaches to the study of ear training, one each from my great teachers, Lennie and Charlie Bonacos, and one of my own. Ear training, or ear straining, as Charlie used to call it, is a very exacting and far-ranging aspect of study for an aspiring musician. Every musician playing in any genre can benefit greatly from its regular practice. There are three different types of pitch that relate to ear training. Perfect pitch. Perfect pitch is the ability to instantly know the name of any note played on any instrument. Despite a few claims to the contrary, perfect pitch is a freaky thing that few people are born with. Lennie used to say that a person possessing perfect pitch can know the note of a toilet flushing. People that have perfect pitch aren't necessarily great musicians. It's just a mysterious faculty that for the most part one either has or hasn't. The second kind of pitch is called recalled pitch. Recalled pitch is the ability to instantly know the name of a note played on usually one, and it's usually one's own instrument. It's unclear whether recalled pitch can be cultivated. It sometimes spontaneously shows up in someone who's practiced for thousands of hours. The manifestation of recalled pitch occurs when one realizes that one can know the names of notes being played on one's instrument from across the room, but that note recognition doesn't extend to other instruments. The last type of pitch is called relative pitch. Relative pitch is the aspect of ear training that is generally targeted in the study of ear training. Relative pitch is the ability to know the name of a note or group of notes that are being played once a given note or cadence is played. For example, if one has played a C on the piano and is told that it's a C, and then an A is played, a person with good relative pitch will know that the second note played was an A. Development of relative pitch is extremely valuable for the improviser and is the goal of the three ear training systems we'll be studying tonight. The practice of ear training can be somewhat dry, painstaking, and exacting, but if, like me, you're a musical weirdo, you might find a compelling type of enjoyment doing these exercises, and the results will be evident in your playing. Let's get into it. Lennie was one of the great pianists and jazz educators of the 20th century. A strong part of Lennie's teaching system was an ear training system that he gave to all of his students. Lennie's concept was to train the student to hear clearly different numbers of pitches in his or her head. And this was a prerequisite to improvising and part of the improvising process. The clearer you can hear intervals and groups of intervals and notes in your mind, the clearer you'll be able to transmit those notes through your instruments when you're improvising. Lennie's ear training system starts with a fixed route, hearing, singing, and visualizing ever-widening intervals. The first idea is to train the ear to clearly hear the sound of two notes at once. The sequence of the process is an important part of its success. I'll demonstrate this system starting with a minor second interval on C. So we're going to use a fixed root, and that fixed root will be middle C. We're going to start listening to the sound of intervals starting from the smallest interval, a minor second, going all the way to an octave to begin. I'll demonstrate this system starting with a minor second interval. The sequence goes like this. You play the interval and then look at it on the piano. Looking at it on the piano is an integral part of this system because when you hear the notes in your head, you also want to know where they are on the keyboard or on your instrument, whatever that is. We play our interval, we look at it on the piano, and then as it's ringing, you sing the interval bottom to top and then top to bottom. Boo, 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 boo. Then you strike the interval again. And then you mentally focus on the individual notes, bottom to top and top to bottom. So I'm hearing bum, 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 but I'm not singing it. I'm hearing it in my mind. And then you strike the interval again and just listen. This is really absorbing the sound and the character of this particular interval. I'll play it again. First you play the interval, look at it on the piano, sing the interval bottom to top and top to bottom. Doozy, zoozy. Strike the interval. Mentally focus on the individual notes, bottom, top, top, bottom. When you do this, I think you'll find something very interesting, and that is that the note that you focus on when you're mentally focusing pops out. It's the strangest kind of phenomenon. You play the interval, and if I'm trying to hear the bottom to the top and the top to the bottom, when I try to hear that bottom note, it somehow pops out of the piano. It's kind of strange, but it's fun. And then we strike the interval again and listen. We start with a minor second interval. And you can spend a little bit of time on that if you're not familiar with this sound, just getting used to this unusual intervallic sound. From there, we'll gradually widen the interval, going, for example, to a major second. C to D. Same thing. Strike the interval, look at it on the piano, sing the interval bottom to top. Bam, beam, beam, bam. Strike the interval, mentally focus on the individual notes, bottom, top, top, bottom, and then strike the interval and listen. You get the idea? You'll be amazed how quickly your ears start to expand their ability to hear different tones at the same time. You'll hear differently after you do this for a while. It opens up some kind of inner ear cavity that up to this point has not been open. Now we're going to continue doing this all the way through to an octave for the first level of this ear training system. So we can go to a minor third. Bam, 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 bam. Strike it, listen to it mentally, let those notes pop out. Strike it again and listen to the interval. You can spend a lot of time just doing the first three intervals. It's a good way to clear a room. We can go to the major third. Bam, 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 bam. You get the idea. Now you can go all the way through to an octave. That would be the first tier of Lennie's ear training system. You can definitely spend a good amount of time doing that every day. Take just a few minutes, but you'll notice that your ears are really hearing in a different way, I think, once you do this for a while. Once you get your basic octave in this system, you can expand it, and you can do, for example, a flat ninth. A little harder to sing, but it's challenging. Bam, 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 bam. And you can expand that all the way up another octave. Okay? Once you feel like you got the basic two-note combinations, and you can hear them clearly in your inner ear, you can add and begin three notes. And the best way to do three notes is by playing ascending diatonic triads in major, minor, and modal tonalities. So you'll first do just some simple intervals. Bam, 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 bam. It takes you into a very meditative state of mind. And there's something about the practice of ear training, just getting into that state where you're intently listening, that really is very interesting, and I think you'll enjoy that experience. So we'll go through all of our two-note combinations, so on, and then we'll start three. And this could take, again, months. Start with a basic major triad and do the same thing. Play the triad, sing it bottom to top. Bam, 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 bam. Now we're going to go up the key of C diatonically. Bam, 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 bam. And then you play it again. Listen to the notes in your inner ear and allow those notes to pop out. And then strike the interval and listen. Then we'll go to the next one. Listen first. Always just take a moment to allow the sound to penetrate your inner ear. So you play the chord, listen, sing it bottom, top, top, bottom. Boom, bam, beam, bam, bam, beam. Hear it mentally. Let the notes pop out in your inner ear. Bing, 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 bing. And then play it again and just listen. And we can go all the way up the scale that way. And then down. After you do that, you can try some other tonalities. For example, a melodic minor. Doing the same thing. Listening, singing, and so on. And you can also do it in different keys. It's really a matter of the quality of attention that you're putting onto the process and just staying with it as long as you like, and you can find many different ways to vary it to keep the interest. You can try a harmonic minor mode. Always deeply listening to the intervals. Bum, 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 bum. Strike it, listen to it mentally, and then strike it again. You can invert the chords and do first inversion for all of those different tonalities. Slowly, of course. That would be three notes. You get the idea. You can take it to four notes. It's possible to take it all the way up to 10 notes. The beauty of this system is that the alternating process of listening and singing really opens up that inner ear faculty. You may feel like you're expanding your brain capacity in an unexpected kind of way. The idea is to be able to hear the sound of multiple notes clearly, so when you're improvising, your inner ear will clearly transmit the music heard to the fingers. That's Lennie's system. Very interesting. A lot of people practiced it. And it's a very effective way to open up the ability to hear music in your head. Charlie Banacus was one of the greatest jazz educators on the planet, and I was fortunate to be able to study with him for many years in Boston. Charlie felt that ear training was the most important thing to study for aspiring improvisers. Charlie's ear training system was geared to be able to recognize and name combination of notes against a fixed tonality. This ability is tremendously useful to guide the process of improvisation. To get into Charlie's system, let's review some classic ear training interval tune combinations. Here we're singing the first two notes of popular tunes as a way to identify an interval. If you can remember the tune that begins with the interval, you'll be able to name the interval. It's a bit of a trick, but it's useful, and it's fine to use this when you're starting ear training. To remember a minor second interval, you can remember the tune, What's New? What's new? Minor second. To remember a major second interval, you can go with Do-a-deer. That's a major second. Do-a-deer. Okay, minor third can be green sleeves. Minor third. A major third is the Blue Danube. Major third. Blue Danube. Haha. A perfect fourth, we can go with the Mexican hat dance. Haha. Perfect fourth. An augmented fourth is always Maria. Maria. It's a great interval. It's a great way to start a tune. A perfect fifth, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Perfect fifth. A minor seventh can be To Life L'chaim. Minor sixth. A major sixth, usually the NBC theme. Bam, 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 NBC. If you're younger than 50, you may not get that. Ask your parents. A minor seventh will be Star Trek. If you're under 50, you may not know that one too. Minor seventh, that's an actually great interval to start a tune with. I guess most people know that these days. And the last interval would be a major seventh, and this is the hardest one to define. Usually we go with the first and third notes of Bally High. Bally High, there's our major seventh. You just might practice these tunes and saying the name of the interval out loud so you begin to associate the tune with the interval. Okay, in Charlie's ear training system, you make a recording to be used later. We make the recording like this. You play a simple cadence in the key of C usually to clearly establish yourself in a key center. So you always begin these kind of Charlie tapes playing this sequence. It doesn't have to be exactly a triad, but it could be. You let the tonality ring, and then you just play another note, someplace usually within the first octave above middle C when you're beginning. So I play my cadence, play a note, and then you try to guess at first what that interval is. So I'm playing this. And then I'm going to listen. What you try to do is to keep that root in your head. So, bum, 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 So I'm hearing bum bum. So that could be the Mexican hat dance. Or you can just think about the distance that you think the note you're playing is from the root. So I'm playing this. Let's play this. It's kind of a long distance because if you hear the root, bum, bum, it's far away. So what you do is you play the cadence, hold it, play any note, let it sit for a second so you can really listen to it when you're listening back to your recording, and then you say the note or the name of the interval, E or 3. So I'll play a cadence, I'll play a note. We want to start in the first octave above middle C to begin. Try to keep that root note in your head, bum, and then you just pause on the tape, and then you say D flat. You make a tape maybe 10 or 15 minutes, just like this, alternating different notes in a random fashion. Major 7th. Minor 3rd, and so on. The key to Charlie's system is in the repetition of the exercise. Over time, each interval will start to have a certain clear color in relation to the key center that you set up, and you will automatically remember that color as a way to identify the interval. So if I play the cadence, if I play that minor 3rd, it has a kind of a bluesy color when you relate it to the key of C. So that kind of color recognition will stay with you, and over time, that's how you're going to catch these intervals. That's a kind of a tense one. Bum, bum. Do a dear. You get the idea? You start just doing cadences and notes within the first octave above middle C. As you get more used to it, you can expand it and go higher or lower on the keyboard and try to hear that color of the note in relationship to the key center again. So Charlie had us do it like this, and then maybe he'd go like this. And you try to hear what kind of color is that. It's that tritone, bluesy color, flat 5. At first it may seem impossible to get this, but as you do it, you'll be amazed to see that if you guess for a while, that it will start to come to you. You can use the tunes, the classic tunes. You can think about the distance. Always try to retain that root note in your head and then listen to see what the interval is between the root note and the extra note you're playing. Flat 7. So you record it, let it sit, hit your note, let it sit for a moment, and then say the name, and then listen back. I spent many hours on this. It's kind of fun in the macabre sort of way. It can drive you bonkers after a while, but it really does open up those ears, and you'll be able to recognize intervals after a while. Once you've mastered one note, you can go on to 2. So we play the cadence, and then play 2 random notes in the octave above middle C, and then I'm retaining that root note and trying to hear what each one of these other notes is. 4 and 7. Gets pretty gnarly when you get into some of these really dissonant intervals. Flat 5, flat 7. So you make a tape. Generally you start with one note. Do that for a while, and then as you go on in months, you can add 2 notes. And that would be flat 3 and 4. 5 and flat 7. I promise you that you'll be able to do this much better than you think you might if you just take it step by step and practice it. It's in the repetition. Something starts to happen in your ear where you begin to recognize these colors and distances. And it's a great thing for a musician to be able to hear that much and that clearly. If you can identify the sound of 10 notes, The ability to know the note of a toilet flushing is not far behind. That's Charlie's basic method, and it was also a great way to train the ear. Okay, the final method I'll show you tonight for ear training is something that I wrote in Joy of Improv. It's called the inner ear line method. And this approach attempts to get you to internalize the sound of lines, much like a foreign language. When we were kids, we used to listen to a phrase on a Spanish record, like, Hola Juan, voy a la biblioteca. And then we'd repeat it. So we'd hear it first on the record, and then we would repeat it ourselves, Hola Juan, voy a la biblioteca. And then go on like that. That way you can first hear the sound of a language in your ear with someone else saying it, and then you have to duplicate that sound yourself. This way, the language starts from outside of yourself, as in a traditional approach, but we can bring it inside and internalize it by this little three-step system. So I'm just going to take a little tune here from Joy of Improv Volume 2. It's a blues tune called Big Apple Blues, and I'll show you how we can use this inner ear line method to develop your ability to hear lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first step is just to learn how to play it. And then once we can play it, you hum along with it. Bum bum ba doo dum, ba de ba da ba de ba da doo de dum. Bum ba be ba ba da doo ba doo da ba de ba da ba ya li da ba dum. Bum ba da da ba ya ba da 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 da. The last part of the process is to play the left hand and to sing the line in the right hand. You can get a note to start with. Bum bum ba bum bum ba bum 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 ba bum bum ba ba da 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 ba da 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 ba zo zam ba da ba ya ba do da do dam ba 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 da ba baby ya ba zo ba da ba ya ba za ba da ba zo zam. The important thing with ear training, obviously, is not the quality of your voice, but it's trying to hit the pitches. When you attempt to do this level of the inner ear line method, you can just take it phrase by phrase, or two phrases at a time. So, bum bum ba bum bum ba da ba da ba bum, and then you can try playing the left hand and singing just that much. Bum bum ba bum bum ba da ba ya ba bum. It obviously falls in the middle of the range sometimes, but you can work with that just as I'm trying to do now. And then take the next two phrases. And then play the chord and sing that. And slowly you'll develop the ability to sing the whole line without playing it. And that approach where we start by playing it and singing along, and then we play the chords and sing the line. Bum bum ba bum bum ba da ba ya ba dee ba ba doodle dee dee ba ba do dee go do be ya ba do da ba da da ba do be ya ba do da da ba da da ba ya ba da ba ya ba da ba de ba ya ba do ba da ba do da. Don't give up your day job. This is the inner ear line method. You can do this with solos. You can do this with like the Charlie Parker Omni book. You can do this with transcriptions. But it's a great way to internalize jazz language and really any kind of musical language. Play it. Play and sing along. Bum, 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 bum. And then play the left hand and sing the right hand. Bum, 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 bum. All right. It wasn't beautiful, but it works. How's everybody doing out there? I hope you enjoyed this introduction to ear training. I really wanted to pass on some of these great techniques that I learned from the great masters that I had a chance to study with. The way to work with this is to decide on an ear training approach that appeals to you and devote maybe 15 to 30 minutes of your daily musical practice to ear training. Go slowly and carefully, concentrate, and expand the system gradually. Your ears will thank you, and a beautiful internal world of sound will open up for you more and more. Remember, when you practice ear training, it's not the quality of the sound that you're making with your voice that's important. It's the ability to hit the pitches. I thought I'd end this class with a very poignant letter that we got from Charlie Banakis at the very end of his life. He was in the hospital, and he sent us this letter because he wasn't teaching at that time, and it refers to ear training. So ear training, the study of, can get very interesting, very complex. You can begin to hear sounds around you as well as on your instrument. And this is a letter that Charlie sent to all of his students essentially at the very end of his life. Another great way to practice ear training when you can't move around too much is to figure out the chord or chords that you hear in the hospital and use that to practice different sonorities. I'll give you an example of what's happening right now. Most of the electronic sounds of this hospital at this moment are B's, T sharps, F sharps, and A naturals. Now there are other sounds, but those are the predominant sounds coming from the electronic equipment. So you could say right at this moment, and this is when he was in his hospital bed, you could say right at this moment, I'm swimming around in a pool of B dominant 7. If you use that as a basis, the next time you hear somebody yell code, you can practice and name its function against the B7 chord as quickly as possible, and it makes a type of symphony. You can do this all day long and have a mini symphony going on wherever you are. I hope you never have to use this kind of exercise in this type of situation, but it works everywhere, in diners, supermarkets, etc. So try it, and you might have fun playing that game. I'd like to thank you for hanging in there with me on this class. I'd like to thank Melissa Kelly for her expert assistance in putting together these classes. And I'd like to invite you to enjoy 19 other master classes free, no commercials, on YouTube and Ustream. You may reach me anytime on my website, www.davefrankjazz.com. Blessings, and keep swinging from New York City.